What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB Wise Stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG of the Wise Take Nation, Mr. Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, first real MLB slate. Yesterday we had a little 2-gamer to warm us up, but the first real slate and real indeed. I think we got, 11 games? Just massive. What's happening, bro?
What's happening? Yeah, it was like 1.5 games yesterday, man. Like that Yankee game was like on the verge of getting fun. We were about to get Scherzer out of there, and they were about to put up a 20 spot. Looked like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dirties were
done.
Oh yeah. Dirties were done, and dirties were about to be done even further. Unfortunately, the rain just didn't cooperate, and it seemed like there was a chance. And somebody was bitching about I saw on Twitter somebody was talking about the dugouts are a mess, and somebody else jumped in and was like, "Man, I've been to that stadium, and it don't matter." And then all of a sudden, you see Roth just drop the hammer with there's a second storm that just fired up, and you're just like, "Nope, not happening. Nope."
Yeah,
but it was still fun to have baseball back. It was fun to have a sport back, a real traditional sport anyway. And I'm pretty fired up. This is a big one. There was a lot to get through. It took me literally all day to get the stat sheet ready and get all the content ready at wisestake.com. Just because, like you said, man, the schedule doers did us dirty by having a 2-game slate one day and then 11-game slate the next. It was just no gradual build-up, no at least start high, so everything that after that it's easy. It was just like start low, then go massive. And from someone who's doing like all of the Excel work and all that kind of shit, that's just a fucking nightmare. But you know what? The nightmare's almost over. And now... Yep. Now comes the dream, Paulie. Now comes the moment. We are winning all the money. $250K top prize on a donkey on DraftKings. FanDuel's got a Millie Maker going today with a $3 entry. You got to beat over 1 million people, but it is there.
Yeah,
it is there. It lives. It lives. Shout out to those of you in the YouTube chat. So you guys starting to pop in. Good to see everybody back. Seeing a lot of familiar faces. At wisestake.com and in the Slack. I haven't been in the Slack as much as I want to just yet. It's been a little busy, but as soon as we get this constructed, I'll be able to pop in there a little bit more. But overall, Paulie, what is going to be your approach? Like, are you still playing light because it's the beginning of the season? It's a massive slate. Like how are you going to approach this slate in general?
Yeah, I'm playing light. I guess considering I got 3 teams with like $140 between the 3, so it's like a decent amount, but just 3 teams, and it's probably not the optimal approach. I think like you'd want to try to get it like 20 teams going because there's a lot of good spots offensively, a lot of good pitchers. Like there's a lot. We have a lot of games and a lot of attractive ones, and on both ends, it's like there's some seriously good pitching and there's some really good offenses and good spots. Coupled with the fact that they're probably not going to see the starters going as long, so there's quite a lot to like. So I would want to have a lot of teams, but there's a couple spots that I've kind of narrowed my pool down to. I did take a sneak peek at your article. There's some things that we both like. There's some things I like that you didn't mention at all. So I think somewhere at the end of the show we should have a good idea what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I like the way that sounds. But that's the goal. By the end of the show. Hopefully we have an idea what we really want to do. And the hope is that by the time we have that idea, it's not after lock and we have enough time to actually implement those. But I'm with you, bro. I'm not going heavy. I'm going very light for us. I mean, normally we like to do, I know this year we had planned on doing some main teams or 3 to 5 main teams, but also have some MME. But we've also talked about gradually kind of coming into the season. There's a lot we don't know, a lot we have to see. New pieces that moved around, certain players that just didn't come because of the COVID stuff. And then, like you said, man, we got pitchers who aren't stretched out yet. So a lot of uncertainty. We'll wait until we have a little bit of a sample. And then we got NBA coming up, too. So as far as bankroll goes, this is the time you got to be disciplined, man. You got NBA coming up. You got a whole lot of things coming. And you're going to want to be able to afford to have your hand. You got to be in it to win it. So you got to have your hand in that pot, man. You got to be ready. You got to be able to chip in. You got to be able to ante up when the time is right. And it might not be right just now, but it's good to have something back. So let's talk some pitchers, Paulie. As you can see, this is the first chance I've gotten to talk to a human today. I've been so crazy fucking busy with numbers and everything else. I have just built up, man. Didn't work out today, which on a Friday for me is not good. And I am just ready to explode in a good or bad way. We'll talk about pitching. Let's start off with pitching. We'll talk about the spend up guys. Talk to me about some of the more expensive. We got Nola, we've got Bieber, and of course we've got Justin Verlander of them cheating They're the Astros. Talk to me about who you're looking to spend up for, if anybody.
Bieber. He's my guy. The Royals were terrible last year. They added some strikeout capability to the lineup, and Bieber was just awesome last year. And I think he's only going to get better. It's like his third full season. He's my guy. They're minus 235 favorites. I expect them to be in line for the win because I also like their bats. So Bieber is the guy I would spend up for, on the higher end, at least in terms of DraftKings pricing. Verlander's all right. I honestly, though, think that there's like merit to using bats against him if you're building a lot of teams. And then I guess the next most expensive guy would be Nola. Who's the third most expensive? Barrios? Barrios. Yeah, well, of the two guys above 10, it's Bieber for me.
Shit, the damn mute button. Yeah, I'm with you. I think in cash games, I'd probably just I feel like Verlander is just the safest, just because we know that he's the coaches don't tell him when he's done. Right, he decides when he's done, and that may be on a 90 pitch limiter or something like that today. But in tournaments, I do like the pivot to Bieber, man. I think that we're going to get him at a little bit of lower ownership because I think people will either try to get to Verlander or they'll try to save even more money and come down to a guy like Nola or Marquez or any of the guys that are in that section. So I'm with you. Bieber's my preferred spend up. It doesn't mean that I can afford Bieber and all the teams I want, but if I can and money's not an issue and I can reach him, he's the one I like to try. I saw the same thing you did with the Kansas City Royals. They look like they may be slightly more strikeout heavy this year than they were last year. And last year, they were more than the year before. It seems like they're gradually rebuilding, and we're seeing a lot of these strikeout guys kind of run through their system. So I'm with you, Bieber at home, even though last year he struggled a little bit at times. I expect Bieber to only improve, man. He's young. I expect him to improve as his career goes on. So I'm with you on that as far as spend ups. The other guy, I guess for me, would probably be Nola. Now, Nola's the guy that I'm kind of coming down to when I can't reach Bieber. I'm okay with it. The Marlins, though, they do have a couple extra bats that they're a little bit more threatening. We got Corey Dickerson over there now. Yeah. We've got some guys that
Aguilar the GOAT.
Yes.
They definitely improved it.
Oh yeah, they definitely improved. According to the numbers we have off 2019, these are all guys that have. Most of these guys do have strikeout rates 20% or higher, which is what we look for. But that's 2019. It's a different circumstance, and some of those guys are right on the cusp. We know that C-Dick is not a guy that always strikes out. Now, on behalf of Nola has pitched better at home over his career, and I believe he is home today, so that's certainly a plus. And we do believe he's a genuinely good pitcher. Last year, he took a little bit of a step back. His strikeout to walk ratio was extremely low. There were a couple red flags, but before that, we saw a different Nola, and I kind of expect to see him go in that direction. But we're going to find out this year. Is he just going to be slightly above average, or is he really going to be an elite pitcher? I think we'll find out this year because the Phillies lineup, which we'll talk about that later, is stacked. So they're going to really fucking need him to do dirts if they really want to compete. Let's go down to the mid-tier, Paulie, because that was pretty much it for the spend-ups for me as well. Who are some of the guys, if any, that you're looking to maybe save some money on, but not quite suck the completely?
So, this range is really interesting to me, and for DraftKings in particular, I find it pretty hard to get Bieber and one of these mid-tier guys and have a lineup that I like. So I'm honestly mostly interested in this tier and all the way down, and if I can fit Bieber, great. But for the most part, I have Bieber on one team right now, and on my other two is combinations of guys that we're going to talk about now. And Jack Flaherty, I definitely have some interest in. The kid was awesome second half of the season last year, almost a 30% K rate, dominant to righties. Pittsburgh, not a very good lineup. They have some young talent, but it's just they're not there yet. They've lost a couple guys that I think made their lineup a little bit more intimidating. Even though that they got a DH, this lineup just not very intimidating. Gil Heredia, Jacob Stallings, Jared Dyson, Jose Ozuna at the bottom, and these other guys at the top like Reynolds, Newman, Bell are good, but Jack Flaherty's proved to be an elite pitcher last year. He's at home. I think they're going to have the lead. He should be in line for the win. So I do like Flaherty quite a bit. Um, Frankie Montas, I think, is kind of interesting. The Angels did not strike out a ton last year. However, Montas, before the steroid scandal, was striking out righties and lefties. Big Park, I expect them to be in the lead. And, he's like cheap enough to where, you get the win, you get the innings, hopefully you get some strikeouts. And, like he pays off the salary and, maybe he's like 5-6 points off, like what the highest guy on the slate is, but you'd be happy with that at his salary. Herman Marquez, I think, is kind of interesting on the road in Texas. This Rangers lineup was kind of fickle last year, and it's like somewhat threatening, but not very. It's like when they're hot, Joey Gallo is awesome, and Santana proved to be pretty good last year. But like Chu, Odor, and then after that, it's really no one else you're worried about. And Chu and Odor are very, very streaky. They lost Nomar Mazara. I think there's going to be a decent amount of strikeouts in this lineup. Todd Frazier, Chirinos, Nick Solak. And Marquez was pretty good home and on the road last year. He really started to kind of come around at the end after kind of having a rocky start after that great season in 2018. And, he's another guy that no one's going to be on. And, I think can, at his price, kind of match point per dollar what maybe a Bieber or Verlander puts out there today. And then I really like Chris Paddock. Arizona didn't strike out a ton last year, but, this lineup is slightly different. They've got Christian Walker, who's going to play every day now, Cole Calhoun, Carson Kelly, Jake Lamb, who's an automatic 3 strikeouts. Now he's batting 8th. And Paddock was just like elite, especially early last year. He's looked good in the preseason or, there's one or two warm-up starts. I think he threw like 90 pitches, struck out 8 guys, and he's got a pretty nasty changeup. And from what I saw profiling, it matches up pretty well here against Arizona. I think cases can be made for others of these guys, but Flaherty and Paddock are my favorite, and I'm like, lightly interested in Montas or Marquez if I was building more teams.
Yeah, I guess for me, I agree that the mid-tier had the most options, and I think part of that is also because of builds. Like you said, if you do go to Bieber, if you do go to Verlander, it could be tough to find people that you feel comfortable pairing them with. I agree with you. I think most of these guys are actually in play, and I mean, I don't know. I just feel like on an ownership level, I even think it's going to be somewhat spread out. I do expect Madison Bumgarner to get a decent amount of attention down there just because he's playing the Padres. But as far as the guys, I mean, my favorite I think is Woodruff, and he's got a tough matchup against the Cubs. I guess we could have talked about him in value. Just in the article, I wrote him in value because there's not a lot of actual value.
Yep.
But he's one of my favorite tournament pitchers on the slate simply because of the numbers, man. Like when you compare his numbers to what his price is, it just doesn't make sense. He had elite numbers last year. Strikeout rate I think was either just under 30 or right at 30%. Everything just looks great. He's got a tough matchup against the Cubs, but I feel like that's incorporated in his price. He really probably should be somewhere in the 8s, and on DraftKings he's over at 7.7. On FanDuel he's 8.7, and I think but over there that kind of is like fair, I think, because he's not always necessarily a lock to go those 6 innings, get you that quality start, and that means everything over there on FanDuel. But I do like Woodruff for tournaments. I like Marquez. I don't know. In my builds, I just really didn't come to him because I like other guys a little bit more than him above the tier or lower the tier. But I do like Marquez. Texas is playing in that new ballpark. They have the roof closed, so the weather's not really going to impact anything at all, which is huge for a place like Texas where they've been impacted by high heat, by winds that blow in but create a wind tunnel for the ball to carry out. So I expect us to see a ballpark that's not as hitter-friendly this year. So I'm cool with Marquez. Texas has a lot of power, but they also strike out a ton. And then I guess since I've already mentioned Woodruff, who's down there, the last guy that I'll mention for the sake of tournaments is Rod Stripling. So this is more of a FanDuel thing. Another reason I should talk to him, right? He's like 6 something over there, I think, on FanDuel. And last year
Yep.
he pitched out of the bullpen for the most part, but this year he has already said that he's ready to go 6 innings. So I do think that he was preparing to be a starter this year. And the problem is his coach. We know is Davey Roberts, who is just you have no clue how long the guy is going to go. It's the first start, so we expect all pitchers to be somewhat limited. But as far as like on FanDuel, a guy that if he can go 6 innings, he's got a matchup against the Giants that's just super soft. So I'll mention him as well. We can sit here and talk about a ton of pitchers today, but that's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the guys that we're the highest on. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Paulie, are there any guys like punt status that you're considering out there?
So, I think what we should do is just like do like a top 3 or 5 for pitching before we switch over. But yeah, like I love Woodruff as well for his price on DraftKings. Even on FanDuel, I don't mind him, but it's more of a DraftKings thing. I think he's like the next Max Scherzer. And I think he's going to kind of display that this year, and this is the cheapest you're going to get him. And I think the Cubs have a lot of strikeouts. The wind is blowing in that park. It had one of the biggest like negative impacts because of the weather on the Weather Edge tool. Woodrow's my favorite guy, point per dollar, and I like a lot of the good bats on the slate, and he really helps get me there. And then, I really don't like Ross Stripling as a player and had kind of like written him off. I saw him in your article, and I was like, CK, what a donkey. And then, as I started thinking about it, it's like, wait a minute. Like, not only does the Giants suck, but like they're missing, Brandon Belt, their best hitter. They lost Buster. Like, this is like the worst lineup. Like, remember last year it was like target the Marlins every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the Giants are right now.
Right.
So even if it's a terrible pitcher, I think we got to consider him. And at that price, especially on FanDuel, you can load up on bats. I will say that he's now entered the picture. And the last guy I'll talk about is Joe Musgrove. That was like strictly a research thing, like pitching profiling, his numbers, like what I'm seeing in him. Even though it really pains me to say this, but you can use right-handed pitchers against St. Louis, and I think he's going to have a breakout year, and he's super cheap, and I'm looking for cheap pitching. So I like Joe Musgrove as well in the cheap seats, but that's about it down here for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I talked mostly about my guys that I have that I like the most up there. I'll say this last thing: it's not something that I really plan on doing. If I was doing 150 teams or more, then I would have some. But for DraftKings only specifically, I don't hate the idea of trying to punt on like your 150th team, 145th team with Tommy Milone against the Red Sox. Obviously, there's no Mookie Betts. And I kind of think that might be a fish approach just because I think everybody's down on the Red Sox offense because they have no Mookie and they have no this. And that's why I'm not prioritizing it. But he's 4K. So if you were wanting to get Verlander, you were wanting to get Bieber, and you're really having a hard time sacrificing, he would be someone I could consider simply because he's 4K, and at the end of last season, he did kind of find this little gear where he was averaging somewhere around 14 to 15 DraftKings points. My issue is that might not be enough. Like, we have so many good pitchers. It's possible that you need to have like a 25 from both or more, but it's also possible that a lot of these guys are on somewhat short leashes, and everybody gets somewhere around 20 or 16. I mean, if you got 4K, say you got like a 13 or 14 from Malone, which is a stretch in itself. But say you did get that hypothetically, and most of these other pitchers are averaging 20. You still won out. I mean, you lost 6 raw points, but you could probably make that up with the bats you were able to afford. So again, I'm spending even too much time not talking about him for a guy that's not really going to actually play him. It's a DraftKings thing only for an SP2. And again, it's a situation where I wouldn't put him on a main team. I think we have too many good pitchers, but I would put him if I was doing 150 teams in a donkey. I would throw him on a few. I'll leave it at that. But other than that, Paulie, I'm with you. I think we like the same pitchers. For me, Stripling, like you said, initially you're just like, no. Then I did the same process, bro. I just did the same thing. I said Stripling, fuck that guy. Saw his FanDuel price and was like, what about there? Nope, fuck that guy. Then I thought about it. I'm like, he's playing the Giants. Okay, and then everything kind of went through my head the same way. And then I read the little piece where he specifically said that he was planning on going 6 innings, and I'm like, well, if he's stretched out, fuck it, let's try it. But I'm with you, man. I think Woodruff sounds like the guy that you and I are both kind of committed to tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like if I had to rank top 5, in like point per dollar order, right? It'd be Woodruff, it'd be Bieber, And it would be Paddock, and then Flaherty, and then Musgrove.
Yep. Yeah, I think for my top 5 would be Woodruff number 1 as well. Bieber number 2. I'd go with Nola number 3. Stripling number 4, but that's specifically. I'm sorry. I'll go Verlander number 4, and then I'll go Stripling number 5, but that's specifically a FanDuel deal. So that's kind of a cop out. But I don't care because we got to show love to the FanDuel people too. Let's talk about some bats, Paulie. We talk about a lot of good pitchers, but there's got to be someone here that we want to pick on today. I didn't go crazy in the article with the stacks, trying to have more concentrated stuff. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, man. Talk to me about some of the offenses you got your eye on.
So it kills me to say this, but I like the Boston Red Sox a ton. I think if you're playing cash games today, JD Martinez is your first bat into the lineup. Love that he's batting second. And, not so much about Malone, although JD Martinez murders lefties. But that Baltimore bullpen was one of the worst in baseball, and I don't expect Malone to go much more than 3 or 4. And then you're just going to get that bullpen, and I like a lot of these Boston bats, and there's a couple that are pretty cheap. Michael Chavis batting 7th is like $3K on DK. Jose Peraza batting 9th is very, very cheap. JD, Devers, and Bogarts are expensive. I even like, Kevin Pillar batting 5th, cheap outfielder. So I do like the Red Sox, home opener against a bad lefty, and then an even worse bullpen. Boston's probably my favorite bats. After that, Cleveland. I have respect for Danny Duffy, and honestly, I don't really like taking Cleveland against lefties in the past, but we got Franmil the GOAT in this lineup. We've got Jordan Luplow. We got Domingo Santana, Oscar Mercado, who's, probably could bat top 3 for most teams. He's batting 9th now. And then J-Ram, who was breaking out at the end of the year. Lindor now going to bat 3rd and, probably be an MVP candidate. Carlos Santana's got great BVIP against Duffy. Really like the Indians, and, not sure if they'll be very popular or not today. Now I'm torn, about the Astros. This seems like an awesome spot for them. They've gotten to Marco Gonzalez a bunch in their last few times. He has also had a few good starts against them. But I think this is either going to be way wrong or way right. I think they either go off for 12 runs, smash him and Seattle's bullpen, which is going to project to be one of the worst in baseball this year. Or they're rattled by getting hit 3 times in their first exhibition game and not knowing, if guys are going to throw at them and yada, yada, and they, underperform. But I tend to think that they're going to show up in their home opener with Verlander on the mound and, Springer, Bregman, Gurriel, Correa, just, lots of power with a team that probably has, a chip on their shoulders. I'm going to have some of them. I just don't really like them that much, but I'm trying to keep my biases out of this. The Minnesota-Chicago White Sox game, I think, has the potential to just go bananas, even though they have good pitchers. Neither team has very good the Twins have a decent bullpen and could be better. The White Sox do not. Both these teams are loaded with power. The White Sox really, really have a nasty lineup all of a sudden. Moncada, healthy and 3rd year. Abreu, murderer. E5 in this lineup. Grandal, Eloy Jimenez, who's probably going to hit 40 homers this year. Lewis Roberts, a power hitting prospect, and Nicky Delmonico batting up and down power. And Minnesota had the most power in their lineup of any team last year, maybe besides the Yankees. And they added Josh Donaldson, and they got Miguel Sano batting 8th, Mitch Garver batting 6th. This team is loaded. And Giolito did show some propensity to get lit up, especially by righties. Like Nelson Cruz a lot today. I would be trying to get him into a cash game lineup if I could afford him. Those are my favorite high-end teams. But if you want to pitch Bieber, you're not going to be able to load up 2 of those kind of teams into a lineup. So I am also considering teams like Oakland. I do like quite a bit. I think Seattle's interesting if you are building a lot. That team has sneaky power, and I just expect Verlander to struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year. He's kind of getting older and has done that last few seasons of his career where he struggles early, then kind of gets in line. And I believe that's really it. I think I could get behind the Rockies if I was building more teams. For the purpose of our listeners, if you're building a lot, I would get some of them. Um, but Oakland and Seattle are the two kind of contrarian teams that are cheap and can allow you to kind of get a nice build with a Bieber or Verla. Wouldn't be Verlander if you're using Seattle, but allow you to spend up on pitching and maybe even two pitchers if you kind of five-man the Oakland side. So those are my two cheap teams. I didn't mention the Dodgers. You can make a case for them, but you got to, narrow the shit down, and they didn't really look great yesterday. So those two, and then some combination of the Astros, the Red Sox, and either of the Twins or the White Sox.
Yeah, man. For me, just being as basic, I agree with a lot of the teams. The Red Sox, I didn't put in the article. I do have one FanDuel team with the Red Sox, just because over there it fit. The only reason, but as I was kind of building through the teams because there are three stacks that I like the most today, I found that, like you said, guys like Chavez and some of these guys kind of were like glue, and I ended up using a couple of these players in a lot of my teams because it helped me get to where I needed to go. So on the Red Sox, I am with you. I'm starting to come around on them a little bit. I don't think I'm going to touch my DraftKings teams. I'm going to leave it as is, but I do actually have a pretty good amount of guys like Chavez, who is 3K on DraftKings, which is just it's kind of crazy against a lefty, like an unproven lefty at home in Boston. It's a little strange. So I can definitely get behind them. The ones that I was focused on, like you said, Cleveland was number one for me against Duffy, a fly ball guy. Cleveland's offense was a little underwhelming, but if you look at it, man, you got Franmil the GOAT, J-Ram, Lindor. They went and got Cesar Hernandez, who could maybe even provide some relief as far as all the attention being on Lindor to get on base. Let Lindor kind of just do his thing and hit regular instead of worrying about, I just got to get on base. Assuming he could do it. He's also cheap. So between all the guys, I felt comfortable going with Cleveland the most. Kansas City's bullpen we expect to be bad like it was last year. And I'm with you. I don't think Duffy's terrible, but we did see that Duffy, despite a decent ERA last year, his xFIP was well over 5. So there's a few of these guys on there, like a trend that I'm kind of sticking with and trying to chase which one's going to have that regression. The next team I'll talk about is the Houston Astros. And again, I had to put my biases. You're far more biased than me because you're a Yankee fan, and they directly screw the Yankees, right? They're the direct reason the Yankees did not go to the series last year, and what, the year before too. So I get it, but because of that same bias, I still think these guys are good. Yeah, they cheated, and they shouldn't have been maybe as good as they were, but I still think that Bregman, I like to believe anyway, that Bregman is still good, that Springer is still good, Altuve is still good, Correa is still good, and I think that Marco Gonzalez is another one of those pitchers that had I think a 3.88 or something like that, a pretty decent ERA, but a 5-something xFIP. So I think at some point regression comes throughout your career, and maybe this is the year that it comes in a season where he maybe isn't fully stretched out, is fully ready. So I'm with you on Houston, man. I'm just I had to overcome the biases and say, listen, regardless, hopefully people leave them, because I think last year in this situation they would be one of the chalky teams on the slate, and they might be today. It's hard to gauge on the first game of the slate what people are going to do. But I will have Houston.
I don't think there will be much chalk anywhere.
Right, it's too big. It's too big.
And how many options?
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. It's too big. The third team for me, this is I guess you can call them somewhat of my value team. They're one of the better point per dollar rated on our stack rankings tool. They project well on a point per dollar basis. I mean, really all the teams that I discussed did, and the Red Sox were even on that list in the top 5. But the Philadelphia Phillies, man, Alcantara, another one, had an ERA in the 3s, but an xFIP in the 5s. Philly's at home in a park that plays well to left-handed power, and Philly does have some left-handed power. Jay Bruce is healthy. He's back in the lineup. We've got Bryce Harper. They went out and got Didi Gregorius, which I think was a pretty big improvement. They still got Segura in there. They just moved him over to third base, so you got some speed. They did lose Cesar Hernandez, which I don't think is a huge knock. And they got McCutchen back, who's leading off, and was really on his way to a decent. Had a decent start last year before getting hurt. So looking at the Philly lineup, man, against the Marlins at home, I know Philly was a team that a lot of people thought kind of disappointed last year. They went out and got all these players, and people were saying Bryce Harper was a bust and all this kind of stuff. I fully expect them to bounce back. I expect the NL East to be extremely competitive, and I expect Philly to be one of the big contenders there. So I do like the Philadelphia Phillies, and I am kind of thinking people will overlook them. I even like the idea of playing Ramuto on FanDuel. Not that he's cheap or anything, but nobody's going to play catchers over there. Everybody likes to play first baseman, and he's one of, if not the best hitting catcher in the game, going up in a revenge spot against his old team. So I'm good with that. Also, another thing on FanDuel, Jay Bruce is like 2,100 over there, basically just free against a righty in a park that favors left-handed hitting, power anyway. Just saying. So really, it was those three, and then the Red Sox were kind of that team on the outside that are starting to creep up. I do agree with you though with JD Martinez, man. That's a situation where I should have probably. Hopefully in the future I have a little bit more time to assess everything as I'm writing it, but that's somebody that probably should have been in there as a potential cash game play for sure. Mr. JD against the lefty at home in Boston, Bostonians with no Mookie. All the attention on JD, man. JD's the guy now. No Mookie to split it with.
Yeah, and like, I think predominantly for some of the newer players, like, we're going to be stacking in all of our lineups. Me, I have 5-man stacks in every lineup, but I like the idea of 5-2-1s, 5-1-1s, instead of just the conventional 5-3, where you get your 5-man from whatever team you're focusing on in that lineup, and then you pretty much, just put JD into that lineup. You don't have to have any other Red Sox, but at least get JD in this nut spot. And, you can 2-man the other 2 spots or 1-1, your favorite one-offs throughout the rest of the slate and kind of approach teams that way on DraftKings. And same on FanDuel. You do a 4-man and then 4-1-1-1 or 4-2-1-1. Just kind of picking out your best. On larger slates, I like the idea of doing some of that, where you just pick the guys that you think are going to do the best and surround that with one stack of, your favorite teams that you want to stack up with that.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I think that, and you're 100% right. Just alone, even on FanDuel, man. Like I've used to always do 4-4s whenever I played FanDuel, which was obviously years ago until this year. But there's something about like finding those hitters you like a Christian Yelich, like a JD Martinez, and like you don't have to fall in love with their team, but all it takes is a double dong from one of those guys to kind of put you over the top. So. I do like that call for sure. Nation, if you have any questions, get them in there. We'll try to answer some questions as we go out. In the meantime, Paulie, we'll do some dong calls. I'll ask you if there's any like one-off specifically that send out to you. But first, let's do some dong watch here. We'll pick 3 homers each. Who's going yard?
JD.
JD, I like it. I'm going to go with Bryce Harper.
I do like that too. I'll go with Nelson Cruz.
I like that call. It'll be low owned. I'll go with my name is Chavez, which I don't know why I made that a thing last year with you. I don't know why. Like I don't even think what country is that. First of all, second of all, he's definitely not from that country, whatever it is. But that's gonna be his identity going forward in my head. In my head, that's what I think of when I see him for no reason. He didn't do it. I apologize. But there's worse things out there. So. Who's next for you?
I'm just so torn on my last guy here. Really torn. I'm just going to have to take 2 last guys.
All right.
So.
Do it. Hey.
All right.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to take Chris with Davis from Oakland against the lefty.
Yeah.
Doing thy dirty. And I'm going to take Franmil the GOAT.
Oh, yeah. Franmil. Oh, yeah. That was a good one. Franmil is a good, yeah. I like that one a lot. I will go with Jose Altuve, man. Mighty Mouse, man. I know he's a little guy. The odds are against us with no cheating. That should significantly impact a guy that's 5'5". But I'm gonna do it anyway, man. No shirt, rip his shirt off and everything this time. Are there any one-offs, whether it be for value on any specific site, maybe just a hitter where you weren't in love with the team, but you just really like a particular hitter anywhere?
Yeah, there's a couple. But let me you answer that question first while I pull up some FanDuel pricing. I'm just curious. You got any, or am I putting you on the spot?
No. I mentioned Jay Bruce already for FanDuel specifically at 2,100. I thought that price. We talked about Chavez, who's only $3K on DraftKings. That's ridiculously low. Peraza, you mentioned also 2,800 on DraftKings. Franmil the GOAT. If you are looking to play Franmil and you're playing both sites, I think he's in the 4s on DraftKings, but he's like 2,700 on FanDuel, so it's much easier to get a hold of him over there. I like Franmil regardless on either site. Just saying, if you're having a hard time fitting him in, that's a place where you can go there and get a quickie in for the time being. But those are the main ones that kind of stood out as far as pricing goes, like just pricing inefficiencies. One other one-off that I don't have in a lineup yet, but I'm still trying to manipulate things to figure out how to get him in, is Christian Yelich, man. We know how good he is. He's playing Kyle Hendricks. I mean, the Brewers in general probably an overlooked stack. I know you had some thoughts on the weather there with the Weather Edge tool and all that. And I'm not crazy about either offense. In fact, we both love Woodruff, but Yelich, anytime you get Yelich in a situation where he's not chalk, and just for the simple fact of, like you said, it's 11 games, you know he's not going to be chalk. He's always a guy you got in the back of your head, a guy with double dunk potential in any ballpark. So that's pretty much it. Where we at? Ready?
Nicky Delmonico's 2,300.
Wow.
That's pretty cheap. That kind of helps any lineup.
Wow, that's crazy.
Let's see, who else we got?
Dirty Burger Stars.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Franmil at 4-4 or Luke Blau in that same lineup. All of Oakland is very, very affordable. Like Ramon Laureano is 4,200. Chris Davis is 4K. Chapman, Matt Olson, who can hit homers off lefties. All those guys were kind of attractive to me. Those are the main ones on DraftKings. But as a whole, I felt like I was struggling, if I had a good pitcher in there to really get a stack with the guys that I wanted. Kevin Pillar is batting 5th for the Red Sox. He's also 38. So the Red Sox have a couple. That's probably one of the best lineups for value. And the more I'm looking at this, and then FanDuel, I would imagine, has a lot though, because they always underprice guys over there. So let's see. Batters. Kevin Pillar, again, he's 2,400. Jordan Luplau's 2,200 on FanDuel. JD Martinez is 3,900. I love that. Fernando Tatis, who's an absolute stud, is only 3,300 against a lefty. Let's see. That's a good one. I like the Jay Bruce call at 2,100. That helps open stuff up. Brandon Nemo, 2,400. Too bad he's not on the slate.
I know.
At the Mets, any clue?
I think Yoenis Cespedes hit a dinger.
Of course.
Yo. Yeah, Mets won 1-0. How about that?
Nice.
1-0.
Any questions up in there?
Let's do the dirty. We got a couple. Anthony Vaughn says favorite 3 pitchers. We touched on that a little bit, but we can narrow it down to 3 for him.
Yeah. The Brewers pitcher, his name's escaping me right now.
Woodruff.
Yeah, Woodruff, Paddock, and Bieber for me.
Woodruff, Paddock, Bieber. Yeah, Woodruff, Bieber, and I guess Nola. It would be Nola on DraftKings, Stripling on FanDuel, I guess. But I'm pretty heavily on Woodruff. He's definitely the guy I have the most. What else we got here? Favorite catcher?
Favorite catcher? Great question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like any of them, but catcher's a position. I'm either just whoever my stack is, I'm using the guy from that team. Or if I had to pick a favorite, I'll go with Will Smith.
Little Willie from Philly. So for me, if money's not an issue, it's JT Realmuto. If money is a thing, then Maldonado against the lefty. He's not a guy that I like. It's more of just there's not as many punt catchers that I'm really wrapping my head around, and he kind of fit in with some of the Astro mini stacks and Astro stacks that I was trying to put together. So he'd be my favorite like cheap guy. But Real Muto is my favorite catcher if money's not a thing. I do like the Will Smith call. I was actually surprised that Will Smith didn't play yesterday. A little butthurt about that they chose Austin Barnes. I'm sure that there's some reason for that, but I do like the Will Smith call. I don't see any other questions. I see a couple comments. Elliot asked about Nelson Cruz earlier. You already touched on that. I see Patricia Stickle says I have a Padres stack. Padres stack, man. I'll sleep in Padres. I do think Mad Bum could get some ownership too. I do think some people will get lazy and just see Mad Bum at 84 and just be like, it's the fucking Padres. Not that I'm dissing that. Like I think in cash games, if I landed on him, I wouldn't be that upset as an SP2. But I do think that the Padres are big favorites in this game, which is pretty good look for your boy Paddock over there. For show. But I guess that's going to do it, Nation. We'll go ahead and get out of here. We got about 13 minutes. Well, really more than that because we got the 7:08 time. But we're going to get up out of here. Appreciate those of you hanging out with us. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. Allows us to continue to do the free content on the YouTube and the Twitch. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. We do this Monday through Friday. We'll be doing it Monday through Friday for NBA as well, whether it be at this time or whenever the hell else the NBA schedule is going to actually start. We will have streams for it Monday through Friday. So make sure you check it out. Don't forget to check us out at whitestate.com. We have our stack rankings tool is up and running. Our pitcher stat sheet, hitter stat sheet. We've got cheat sheets for both sites. I did write a little breakdown of the stuff that I'm looking, my little strategy implementing into tonight. And we got projections. Those of you who do MME, you want some White State Nation flavor on your teams. You want to upload them into the optimizer and see what comes out. We got those available too. So plenty of content available. We have day passes if you want to try the content out. $2.50 all it costs. You get access to all the MLB content. Only thing you don't get is the fucking Slack chat, which I do recommend. So if you want to get the monthly membership or higher, once you see that the content is the real mother-sucking deal, go do the dirty. But either way, no matter what, even if you don't want to do that, you don't want to spend the money, you don't got the money, at the very least, you can be watching these free streams. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and hit that like button. Paulie, anything in closing for the nation before we get up out of here?
No. Good luck, nation. See you next time.
Dirties be done. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire Wise Take Nation, as always, good luck.